Welcome back to Doc's Hot Shop and Forge. So a lot has happened over the last 24 hours or so. Let's start with a big shout out to John over at Black Bear Forge. Thank you so very much for referring your subscriber base to me. I am astounded. I am going to be eternally grateful for this. And I will endeavour to make all of you new subscribers as proud of my work as you could possibly be. So thank you to all the new subscribers. You've really given the channel a bit of a boost. So with that out of the way, what I was going to go through today in this very out of phase video, because my normal recording and publishing cycle is record something on the weekend, edit Monday, publish Monday, record, publish Wednesday, record, publish Friday, and then I've got the weekend to do start on another big project or whatnot. So this is going to come up out of sequence. I'll be publishing this as soon as I finish recording and editing it, so it'll be up tonight, my time. I'm here in Australia, so for those of you who don't know, I'm in Australia, John's in Colorado in the USA, and yeah, this is an amazing little collaboration via the magic of the internet. So a little bit about what's going to be happening in the near future. I'm going to continue with the Viking tool series, although making custom tools is starting to take up more of my time, so there may be a bit of a wait list happening at some point. I have some new tooling to get set up for the shop, which I'll show you guys in a minute, and somehow to find room for it in my very small shop, which I will give you a brief virtual tour of in a moment. So you'll be amazed at how much I cram into a really tiny space. And along the way, I'm also going to go through a few little tips for working with wrought iron, especially making Viking style hammers out of wrought iron, and go through some of the special tools that I've made to facilitate that. So let's get through the initial things and we'll get to the tools and stuff in a little bit. So let's have a quick tour of the shop. I'll record that on my phone. It will look radically different to what I've recorded just now, simply because it's a different camera modality, so bear with me. The sound quality is going to be pretty poor. Alright, let's get to this. So this is looking from the main entrance doorway. There is about a 2 metre, so about 6 foot from main door to my gas forge, which is about 3 feet from a near open wall. From there is 6 feet to the back wall. I've got a little bit of my scrap pile, stake anvil, striking plate slash bolster, tool rack, my combination wood shop, metal shop, anvil, 45 kilos, 100 pounds. And next thing to get a permanent home is my post vise, which is currently standless, and really does need something. So here's my little workshop. This is a 1910 metal cutting lathe that I'm in the process of restoring. Usual machine tools. A lovely little gem from a couple of centuries ago. No slop in the threads. Amazing centuries old machinist's vise, essentially. So yeah, and then that's looking back into the workshop from just outside the workshop, space that I've got allocated to me here. So as you can see, it's tiny. It's like 12 feet by 12 feet, give or take a foot. So there you go. So going on to the tools and some of the Viking things that I'm planning on making, and some of these are things I've made, so these are some old shop drawings. So I'll just isolate most of the hammer ones, or the ones that relate to hammers. I was wondering where that got to. So, not sure how clearly you can see this. Okay, so what you can see here is Mastemir 68, which is the long doghead hammer. Again, you can see that the eye is very long and elongate with quite thick walls. Okay, keep that in mind. So that's the first one. This is 67, I believe, which is a small, approximately 1 pound hammer. Again, the eye, very elongate, parallel sides, rounded ends, hourglass cross section in the long axis of the handle, but again, very thick eye walls. I'll come back to this one. This one is relatively important. So this is the long round-faced hammer, which I'm still trying to figure out definitively what it was used for, but I suspect it was used for making helmets and potentially other armor-like applications, because it looks a little bit like a 13th odd century armorer's hammer. But again, the eye is long, near parallel sides, thick walls to the eye. This is Mastemir 65, so the one that John most recently tried to make. And I've made 2 of these now. I'm about to make a 3rd one. Again, long, parallel-sided eye, nice hourglass, mostly at the ends, not so much in the sides. Again, thick walls. You see the same in Viking adzes and axes, which, although more oblate, is again longer and more parallel than we would make it at all. So, coming back to this drawing, which is a tool of unknown use, and it's item number 104 within the catalogue. So if you've got the book or have downloaded a copy of the book from the link that I put in the introduction to the Mastemir chest series, it's the first video in that playlist. There's a link to a PDF source for it. There is this item, which I think is a drift, and its cross-section matches the hammers quite closely. It's approximately 50 millimeters by 25 at its largest, and tapers down to around about 40 by 20. So this was for the larger items. This end was obviously a struck end. There's evidence of mushrooming. This end, there's a little bit of mushrooming, but also evidence that it had been reshaped to try and maintain that general outline that we see today. So, that brings me to the tools I use to make these. So for the small hammers, I have a basic slitting punch. It's only about 3/16 thick. And I'm not even sure how big that edge is. 5/8, 16 mil by about 4 mil. This needs redressing. It's starting to get a little bit of mushrooming, so I'll need to do that. For the larger hammers, I use this one, which again, relatively narrow, at just a hair over. So what would that be? 5/32 by 15/16 at its narrowest. So that's what, 22 or 23 millimeters, 24 millimeters by 4 millimeters. Which I punch, and then I usually drive in till it's at about that sort of 12 mil, half-inch width, which gives me about 25 mils. And then I go over to this drift, which is my version of this, of the Mastermure drift. I'll probably make an actual copy of this at some point, but this is the one that I use. It's some sort of mystery steel out of the backbone of a plough. So if you've watched this video, watched how I've nearly wrecked my arm forging it, you'll know the story behind it, which starts off at 24 by 10 and goes up to a maximum of 55 by 24. So that's the tool I'm planning on using for making most of these in future. It will also get used to make this axe. Not quite 100% sure on how I'm going to achieve a more oblate eye as opposed to the more rectangular eye, but be that as it may, that's where we're at. So how do these compare to the modern eye of a hammer? So when we have a look at a modern hammer, very uniformly oblate. Yeah, good, that's in frame. So very uniformly oblate, not at all like the long sort of lazy ovals of the Viking hammers. If you can see that difference. Okay, so this is a modern drift. This is the failed version of my most latest video. You can kind of just see the crack there. I forge welded it back together. It's a fairly solid weld, but be that as it may, this is compromised. It won't get used. Again, relatively oblate, but this is an older hammer, probably hand forged, Smith made, long time ago, so slightly different style of handle. But if we look at the profile, this is set up for doing modern eyes. It's very oblate. Okay? And that's the big difference. With wrought iron, you get more distribution of forces. You get more distribution of forces if you keep it flat and thin. And that's important in these hammers. Not so much for their use, but in their making. At least that's my hypothesis, and that's what I've found. So for small hammers, I've got this one, which again comes up to a very oblate eye up here. So this is a small 8 ounce to maybe a pound. This one was going to be for hammers up to about 2 pounds. I'll have to come up with another plan for that now. So that's my little expose on tools for making Viking hammers and how they compare to modern tooling. I hope you guys can take something out of it. Some general tips on working wrought iron. as John has said previous times, and just about everybody who works wrought iron says, work it hot, as close to welding heat as you're comfortable with and can maintain. It's more or less self-fluxing, so mistakes are easy to weld out. It does scale more. You do have to compensate for losses for that, and those are my big tips. And expect it to take a little bit longer. You can't forge it as quickly as you would a modern steel. Right, so that's the tools bit done. I hope everybody can get something out of that. So that's the little impromptu vlog from today. In the next week or so I will build a stand for the post vise, figure out somewhere where I can stand that and it's not too much in the way. Got a few more Viking things to make, and then it gets into the Christmas tool rush. Oh, new microphone. Let me know what the sound quality is like, if you think it's better than the old one. If it's not better, then I'm going to have to continue my search for a better microphone, so please bear with me. I am working on the sound quality, because I know that it's at least 50% of the deal with videos. So, once again, thank you John over at Black Bear for the shout out and sending all of my new subscribers my way. And to all the new subscribers, welcome. We run giveaways from time to time, so there are perks to being a subscriber. And if you like this video, hit the like button. Do feel free to share it. And to those who haven't subscribed, please consider subscribing. And please consider hitting the bell so you get notified of when new videos come along. And as always, make time to get out to your shop, have fun, but do stay safe. And I'll catch you for the next one.